Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the annual Champions League draw, also known as how to overcomplicate a tournament bracket in 50 different ways. We've got matchups that will make your brain hurt, teams that shouldn't be here but somehow are, and of course the unavoidable Real Madrid will probably win inevitability. Today we're diving into what could happen, what should happen, and what will definitely not happen, but we'll pretend it might just for the drama. Let's get straight into it, because we've got PSV versus Arsenal, Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid, PSG versus Liverpool, and wait, Club Brugge versus Aston Villa. Ah yes, the Champions League tradition of throwing in one fixture that makes you double-check if you're watching the right tournament. The favorites. Who's definitely winning until they're not? Right, let's establish who's most likely to go through before they inevitably bottle it. Arsenal, favorites against PSV? Absolutely. But this is Arsenal in Europe. That second leg at home will either be their salvation or a very expensive therapy session for their fans. Real Madrid, they're playing Atletico Madrid, which means one of two things. Either Diego Simeone's men will grind their way to an exhausting 1-0 win, or Real Madrid will pull off another, "oh we're losing, time to turn into the Avengers comeback." PSG versus Liverpool. Toss a coin. But let's be honest, Liverpool are a Champions League heritage team, and PSG are, well, PSG. Aston Villa versus Club Brugge. It's a real football hipster fixture. If you pretend to know more than 5 Club Brugge players, I know you're lying. Now let's talk about the real reason these teams are considered favorites: squad depth, money, and a touch of referee luck. Arsenal, despite their reputation for mid-season existential crises, have the squad to deal with PSV. That said, we all know Arsenal loves turning a straightforward knockout tie into a life-threatening experience for their fans. Meanwhile, Real Madrid doesn't just win Champions League ties, they orchestrate them like a high-budget Netflix drama. If Atletico somehow takes the lead, expect Madrid to do what they do best: stare into the abyss for 80 minutes, then produce 2 goals out of nowhere while their opponents question their entire existence. As for PSG and Liverpool, this is where things get juicy. PSG might have the most expensive squad, but let's not forget their habit of combusting under pressure. It's almost like they enjoy throwing away comfortable leads in the Champions League. Meanwhile, Liverpool is that team that should be struggling, but then they'll pull out some chaotic Anfield magic, complete with an 89th minute Mo Salah winner, followed by Klopp sprinting down the touchline like a man who just found out his car is getting towed. Liverpool in the Champions League is like that one student who never studies but somehow still gets an A. Meanwhile, PSG is the rich kid who buys all the study guides but still fails the exam. Arsenal's Champions League strategy is simple: start well, build hope, then dramatically self-destruct, right when it matters most. Atletico Madrid's best hope against Real Madrid is to defend like their lives depend on it. Unfortunately, history shows that Real Madrid doesn't care about your well-structured defensive system. They'll still find a way to ruin your night. Aston Villa versus Club Brugge. It's like that indie movie everyone pretends they've seen but really haven't. It'll probably be fun, but will anyone actually watch? PSG versus Liverpool is basically FIFA career mode versus football heritage. PSG has the fancy signings. Liverpool has the somehow we still win these energy. PSG in the Champions League is like ordering a 5-star meal and getting served a bowl of disappointment. 2. The surprises picks, where hope goes to die. Now every year we pretend that upsets might happen. It's cute, it's fun. But will it actually happen? Let's investigate. Lille versus Dortmund. People are sleeping on Lille, but they've got talent. Jonathan David could do a madness. But this is Borussia Dortmund. We've seen this movie before. They'll either overachieve or crash out in dramatic fashion, no in between. They are Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich. Leverkusen have been balling under Xabi Alonso. They even outplayed Bayern in their last meeting. But Bayern in the Champions League is like a horror movie villain. You think you've got them beaten, and then suddenly Thomas Müller scores in the 93rd minute. Now let's be clear, every Champions League season comes with its fair share of Cinderella stories, until they hit the quarterfinals and get absolutely humbled by the big boys. Just ask anyone who believed Napoli was winning the whole thing last season. Lille has the talent, the passion, and a striker in Jonathan David, who could put Dortmund to the sword. But this is Dortmund, chaotic, unpredictable, and somehow always involved in either a last-minute winner or a shocking collapse. Leverkusen, on the other hand, are the hipsters' choice for an underdog run. Xabi Alonso has them playing some of the slickest football in Europe, and Bayern has already felt the heat against them this season. But here's the thing. No matter how shaky Bayern looks, the Champions League always finds a way to protect them like a rare Pokémon card. If Leverkusen wins, it'll be a revolution. If they lose, well, it's just Bayern doing Bayern things. And then there's Inter Milan, a team that has been quietly destroying everyone in Serie A. People keep underestimating them and they keep winning. But do they have enough to get past the Champions League chaos and actually lift the trophy? Probably not. But hey, it's fun to pretend. Lille versus Dortmund is the Champions League equivalent of two drunk guys swinging punches outside a nightclub. Anything can happen, but it'll be entertaining either way. Bayer Leverkusen fans are probably convincing themselves they can beat Bayern. That's cute. Have they met Bayern Munich in the Champions League? Inter Milan is like the quiet guy in school that no one notices, until suddenly they're top of the class and making everyone look stupid. Dortmund's Champions League experience is like a roller coaster built by an intern, exciting, terrifying, and likely to fall apart when you least expect it. Leverkusen knocking out Bayern would be like the apprentice defeating the master, only for Bayern to buy all their best players next summer. Underdogs in the Champions League are great, until they run into Real Madrid or Bayern, at which point their magical run turns into a public execution. 3. The quarterfinals, where teams realize they've made a mistake. Okay, so let's assume the favorites actually get through, which, let's be honest, they probably won't. The quarterfinals are looking tasty. Real Madrid versus Liverpool. At this point, this is less of a fixture and more of an annual Champions League event. Madrid will probably do what they always do. Go down 2-0, panic for 5 minutes, then remember they have Jude Bellingham and win 3-2. Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. Arsenal fans are going to need emotional support for this one. If you say Bayern Munich near an Arsenal supporter, they start shaking uncontrollably. Barcelona versus Leverkusen. If Leverkusen makes it here, Barcelona better be afraid. They will press that high line like their rent depends on it. PSG versus Inter Milan. PSG fans will be hoping their team can finally prove they weren't just Mbappé FC this whole time. At this stage, teams start realizing that winning in the round of 16 was actually a curse, not a blessing. The casual optimism of we can go all the way turns into sheer panic when they realize they have to face Real Madrid, Bayern, or a revived Barcelona. This is where Arsenal, if they make it, start feeling like they're being forced to relive their childhood trauma because, let's be honest, Bayern Munich is Arsenal's bogeyman in Europe. It's a tradition at this point. And then there's PSG, the club that has mastered the art of finding new ways to collapse in this competition. Every season, they spend ridiculous amounts of money on talent, and every season they find themselves in a situation where someone has to step up and rescue them. Except this time it won't be Mbappé. Against Inter Milan, they might be favorites on paper, but Inter is a brick wall defensively, and if PSG thinks they can finally shake off their European curse just because they have a new squad, they've got another thing coming. At this stage, teams aren't just battling each other, they're battling the weight of history. Real Madrid has the Champions League DNA, which basically means they can be outplayed for 89 minutes and still win 2-1. Arsenal will be battling their own inferiority complex, PSG will be fighting against their reputation as European choke artists, and Barcelona will just be praying their defensive line doesn't randomly self-destruct. At this point, Arsenal fans should just start emotionally preparing for Bayern Munich. It's like the final boss in a video game, they know it's coming, but they still act surprised. Real Madrid versus Liverpool? Just play the highlights from their last 3 meetings. It's the same script every time. Madrid goes down early, then turns into an unstoppable footballing machine after halftime. PSG in the quarterfinals is like that guy in a horror movie who thinks he's safe, only to turn around and realize the villain has been standing behind him the whole time. Leverkusen versus Barcelona will either be a tactical masterclass or pure footballing chaos, no in between. Inter Milan versus PSG is the ultimate test of hype versus pragmatism. One team has a plan, the other has vibes and an overpaid front three. At this stage, clubs stop worrying about how we play and start worrying about how do we survive. 4. The semi-finals, where dreams go to die. Alright, now we're getting to the serious part. If you're a fan of any of these teams, this is where the heartbreak starts to feel personal. Real Madrid versus Arsenal. If Arsenal makes it this far, I'll be impressed. But Madrid in the Champions League? That's like trying to fight Thanos with a wooden spoon. Barcelona versus PSG. Oh, this is the classic. Can PSG finally break the La Remontada curse? Or will Barcelona do them dirty again? By the semi-finals, teams are no longer thinking about tactics. They're thinking about survival. This is where footballing logic gets thrown out the window, and pure chaos takes over. If Arsenal has somehow dodged the Bayern Munich boogeyman and found themselves against Real Madrid, this will be the true test of whether they belong in the elite or if they're just tourists in the land of serial Champions League winners. Madrid, meanwhile, will probably show up like, oh, another semi-final, business as usual. And then there's Barcelona versus PSG, a fixture that should honestly have its own Netflix documentary. PSG fans will be praying that the spirit of La Remontada doesn't haunt them again, but deep down they know Barcelona lives for these moments. The pressure will be suffocating, the stadium atmosphere will be nuclear, and you just know there will be at least one penalty controversy that makes Twitter explode. At this stage, teams aren't just battling each other, they're battling the weight of history. Real Madrid has the Champions League DNA, which basically means they can be outplayed for 89 minutes and still win 2-1. Arsenal will be battling their own inferiority complex. PSG will be fighting against their reputation as European choke artists, and Barcelona will just be praying their defensive line doesn't randomly self-destruct. Arsenal reaching the semi-finals would be like finding out the nerdy kid in school is suddenly dating a supermodel. You'd be happy for them but also deeply confused. PSG facing Barcelona in a Champions League semi-final is like getting back together with an ex who ruined your life. You just know it's going to end badly. Real Madrid doesn't win semi-finals, they survive them. No matter how well you play, they will find a way. The Champions League semi-finals are where teams truly show their character, or in PSG's case, where they completely lose it. At this stage, form doesn't matter. Your team could have won every game 5-0 up to this point, and Real Madrid will still find a way to humble you. Semi-finals are not about who plays better. They're about who panics less when everything starts going wrong in the 88th minute. 5. The final. The inevitable happens. And after all the upsets, the drama and the VAR disasters, it all ends here. Real Madrid versus Barcelona. Ah yes. The dream final. El Clasico in the Champions League final. If this happens, just cancel the internet for 24 hours, because football Twitter will explode. Or Liverpool versus Bayern Munich. If Liverpool somehow survive Real Madrid, expect this to be a proper heavyweight fight. Salah versus Kane, Slot versus Company, and most importantly, the battle of which club can traumatize their fans the most. At this point, the footballing world has collectively lost its mind. Pundits are over-analyzing every single tactical decision, and fans are arguing about which club has more heritage like it's some kind of ancient blood feud. If it's Real Madrid versus Barcelona, expect all-out war. It won't just be a football match, it will be a cultural event. Spanish media will be in meltdown mode, Madridistas will start referencing their 14 Champions League titles in every conversation, and Barcelona fans will be praying that their defenders don't have an existential crisis mid-game. But if we somehow get Liverpool versus Bayern Munich, expect pure chaos. Liverpool will be running on tactical discipline, Arne Slot's total football philosophy, and the ghost of Istanbul 2005, while Bayern will be calmly executing their football like a well-oiled German machine. Thomas Müller will be trolling people in pre-match interviews, and Tuchel will be trying to prove that he can actually win a final without people calling it a fluke. And of course, let's not forget that the Champions League final never ends without at least one massive controversy. Whether it's a questionable offside, a soft penalty, or a goalkeeper deciding that the biggest match of the season is the perfect time to forget how to use their hands, something wild is bound to happen. A Real Madrid versus Barcelona Champions League final would break the internet. Twitter servers would need life support by halftime. Liverpool versus Bayern Munich isn't just a football match, it's a 90-minute test of which fanbase can handle the most emotional trauma. At this stage, the trophy isn't won by the best team, it's won by the team that panics less when something inevitably goes horribly wrong. The Champions League final is where managers show their true tactical genius, or in some cases their true overthinking tendencies. History has taught us that you don't win a Champions League final, you survive it. If Real Madrid is in the final, just accept your fate. The sooner you do, the less painful it will be. Closing thoughts. Get your predictions ready. Alright folks, that's the full breakdown of the Champions League madness. Who do you think is going all the way? Is it Real Madrid again? Can Arsenal actually survive Bayern? Will PSG finally not embarrass themselves? Drop your predictions in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more completely serious, totally unbiased football analysis. And remember, if you ever feel bad about making bad decisions, just know that PSG once spent €200 million on Neymar to win the Champions League and still haven't done it. See you next time.